In the year 1992, in the extremely dangerous region of the Arctic Circle, the massive ice-breaking ship North Star, on an international research mission, is heading towards a secret project carrying scientists and technical experts from several countries. There are a total of 80 people on board, including meteorologists, marine geologists, medical staff, and a security team. The command is held by the new Captain Victor, who is highly disciplined, cool-headed, and a man who values rules above human lives. Meanwhile, the second in command, Alex, is an experienced navigator who has safely guided many ships through icy storms before and maintains a human connection with the crew. Initially, everything proceeds normally, but on the third day, the weather suddenly begins to deteriorate rapidly, and a terrifying blizzard surrounds the ship from all sides. Visibility on the radar almost vanishes, and satellite communication starts disconnecting repeatedly. During this time, the scientific team records strange vibrations and low-frequency sound waves coming from beneath the ice, leading to the estimate that a nearby massive glacier has become unstable and is slowly moving. However, Captain Victor dismisses this report as an overreaction and orders the mission to continue because he is under pressure to reach the research station within the set time. Alex feels this decision is wrong and advises keeping the crew on alert mode. Meanwhile, a small explosion occurs in the engine room due to a burst pressure pipe, severely injuring an engineer, and the medical team realizes for the first time that the situation is spiraling out of control. One of the ship's propulsion systems also weakens, reducing its speed and causing it to consume more fuel while breaking through thick ice. Rationing of food and water supplies begins for the first time, causing restlessness among the crew. Some people start becoming unhappy with Captain Victor's decisions, while others still consider his strictness necessary. During this, an old auto-navigation drone system kept in the helicopter hangar activates on its own, making the technicians suspect a major fault in the ship's electrical system. Alex suggests testing this system, but Victor labels it a waste of resources and has it shut down. Meanwhile, the scientific team discovers from new data that the glacier's movement is not in a straight line, but is circling towards their direction. This means if the ship remains stationary, it could collide with a massive ice mass within a few hours. Fearing the consequences, some young scientists hide this data and show it directly to Alex, as they trust he will prioritize the crew's lives. Alex immediately advises changing the course, but Captain Victor ends the meeting in anger, dismissing the data as a mere rumor. Meanwhile, with a violent jolt, the ship becomes stuck even deeper in a thick layer of ice. Despite the propeller using its full power, the ship is unable to move. People on the deck sense some massive shapes moving slowly in the distant ice fields, but they cannot see clearly due to the worsening weather. A report comes in from the radio room stating that contact can no longer be established with any external station. Panic begins to spread among some crew members. In the medical bay, the injured engineer's condition continues to deteriorate, and the doctor needs a stable power supply for surgery, which is now cutting out repeatedly. On the other hand, the security team feels a strange vibration in the ship's cargo section, as if something is exerting pressure from below, but nothing is visible upon inspection. By nightfall, the temperature drops so low that staying on deck becomes difficult, and thick ice begins to form on the ship's outer hull. The crew has to work in shifts to clear the ice. Due to fatigue, cold, and fear, arguments among the people increase. Some people secretly ask Alex if they are truly trapped, but Alex gives them courage, saying as long as the ship is safe, there is hope. Meanwhile, Victor sits in his cabin constantly updating the logbook, trying to avoid sending a report of a failed mission. That same night, the scientist's sensors suddenly record very intense vibrations, making it clear that the glacier is moving faster than before. But before this alert can reach the bridge, the ship's lights go out completely for a few seconds. When they return, strange codes appear on the navigation system, as if an external force is affecting the ship's electronic systems. Amidst this growing danger, the crew begins to realize that this mission is no longer just a research trip, but the biggest fight of their lives. After the lights flicker repeatedly and the navigation system malfunctions, an emergency alert is issued throughout the ship. The engineering team discovers that the ship's power grid is short-circuiting due to ice pressure and moisture, which could cause the entire system to fail at any moment. Captain Victor orders unnecessary sections to be shut down and tells everyone to stay at their duty stations. This spreads even more tension among the crew because they no longer have the chance to talk to one another or boost morale. In the medical bay, the injured engineer's condition remains critical, and the doctor fears that if surgery isn't performed soon, he may lose his life. However, stable power is unavailable. Alex, along with some technicians, attempts to manually start a backup generator that had not been used for years. During this time, the ice layer in the cargo section breaks, causing water to seep in, and several containers shift and collide with one another. This creates a risk of leakage from drums containing dangerous chemicals. The security team reaches the area and seals it off. But due to the freezing cold and fear of toxic gas, no one is allowed to remain inside for long. Meanwhile, the scientific team is trying to understand why the glacier's movement is so unnatural. They begin to suspect that a major tectonic shift or a gas explosion beneath the sea is upsetting the balance of the ice. If this is the case, not just one, but several icy mountains could break off and drift into the area. This thought causes them even more panic. However, when they inform Captain Victor, he dismisses it as a baseless theory. In the midst of this, some crew members start stealing extra food from the ration store because they feel that conditions are going to worsen. When this news reaches security, a clash breaks out inside the ship regarding discipline, and for the first time, people openly question the captain's decisions. Alex tries to handle the situation and explains to everyone that fighting among themselves will only increase their troubles. Suddenly, another violent jolt occurs, causing the rear part of the ship to sink even deeper into the ice. Several people are injured in falls, and equipment kept on the deck is scattered everywhere. Upon looking outside, it is discovered that a massive, wall-like ice structure is slowly sliding toward them on the distant horizon. Now, many people are convinced that the scientists were right, and the glacier is indeed moving toward them. In a panic, some people talk about preparing lifeboats, but surviving in a lifeboat amidst these temperatures and broken water is nearly impossible. In the medical bay, the doctor is forced to begin surgery without full power support to save the injured engineer. During the surgery, the ship shakes again, making the situation even worse. Alex succeeds in partially starting the backup generator, providing stable electricity to the medical section for a short while. However, at that same moment, the navigation system on the bridge fails completely, and the ship's direction spins out of control. Captain Victor realizes for the first time that the situation has slipped from his grasp, but he is still unwilling to listen to anyone's advice. On the other side, scientists receive new data showing that, along with the glacier, pressure waves are increasing under the sea, indicating a major after effect. This means if they do not leave quickly, not only will there be a collision, but the entire region could become unstable. Alex takes this report to the captain again, speaking directly about changing course and taking the risk of exiting through a narrow passage. But Victor views this as a mutiny and warns him that if he tries to incite the crew. After this collision, the ship begins to split into two groups, one that is still with the captain and the other that trusts Alex. Amidst the cold, fear, and uncertainty, people's relationships begin to change. Someone starts praying, while someone else quietly starts looking at pictures of their family. In exactly this restless atmosphere, the sensors suddenly start sounding a loud alarm, which signals that the speed of the glacier is now many times faster than before, and the time of collision has come very close. Following the warning of the glacier's rapid approach, chaos ensues throughout the ship. Some people run towards the bridge, while others go to their cabins and start packing essential belongings. Captain Victor has the siren turned off so that panic does not spread. But this increases people's fear even more, because they now begin to feel that the truth is being hidden. Alex, along with the engineering team, investigates whether they can move the ship out backwards, but it is found that the rear part is stuck so deep in the ice that it is almost impossible to remove it without an explosion. Some technicians suggest that the fuel charge kept in the cargo section can be used to break the surrounding ice, but this would mean that the ship's structure could also be damaged. Captain Victor refuses this plan, calling it dangerous, and orders everyone to stay in their places. Meanwhile, news comes from the medical bay that the injured engineer's condition is stable, but he is not in a condition to be shifted. If the ship receives a jolt, his life could be in danger again. Outside, the intensity of the blizzard increases further, and the sound of the wind becomes so loud that a whistle-like echo begins to be heard even inside the ship. The team of scientists can now clearly see that along with the glacier, many small icy fragments are also breaking off and flowing, which can damage the ship's hull. The security team goes on deck to try and remove the ice, but the cold is so extreme that within a few minutes, their hands go numb. During this time, a leak starts from one of the chemical drums in the cargo section, which creates a danger of toxic gas spreading inside the ship. The entire section is immediately sealed, but two people working there get trapped inside. Alex risks his life to go and rescue them, and manages to pull them out with difficulty. This increases the crew's trust in Alex even more, while Captain Victor's strictness now begins to seem like indifference. Some crew members start whispering among themselves that if a decision is not taken in time, they will all be killed. On the other hand, the scientists get another terrifying piece of data, that there are gas pockets under the sea behind the glacier which, if they burst due to pressure, a large explosion can produce jolts. This means that the collision could break the ship not just from the front, but also from below. Alex takes this report back to the bridge again, and this time he says openly that if the ship is not turned now by taking a risk, there won't be another chance later. Captain Victor falls silent for a while for the first time, but then says that he cannot take any major decision without headquarters approval, whereas communication with headquarters is completely cut off. On this very point, some officers present on the bridge also begin to raise questions about the captain's decision. The atmosphere becomes so tense that for a few moments it feels like a mutiny might break out inside the ship. Just then, another powerful jolt occurs, and one side of the ship shudders with a screaming sound as it hits the ice. A long crack-like fissure appears in the hull, through which water slowly begins to come inside. Pumps are started, but due to the cold, they too are unable to work properly. Now it becomes clear that very little time is left. The massive wall of the glacier now begins to appear much clearer than before, and its shadow begins to fall over the entire ship. People begin to tremble while looking out of the windows. Some start crying, some hold each other's hands. And amidst this fear and restlessness, Alex quietly begins to prepare a dangerous plan in which he will have to take some decisions without the captain's permission. But what is this plan, and will he be able to implement it? This remains unknown to anyone for the time being. When the massive wall of the glacier comes almost in front of the ship, Alex realizes that waiting any longer means certain death. Together with trusted people from the engineering team, he quietly activates the backup control system and sets the fuel charge kept in the cargo section in the direction of the ice gathered at the ship's edge so that a crack can be created with a controlled blast. Meanwhile, Captain Victor gets wind of this plan and comes down from the bridge in anger to try and stop Alex. A heated argument takes place between the two where Victor says that a decision taken by breaking rules can kill everyone, and Alex replies that if we keep following rules, no one will survive. At that very moment, the ship shakes with another powerful collision, and water begins to rush inside rapidly. Seeing the situation, Victor realizes for the first time that Alex was right. With a heavy heart, he gives him permission to proceed and goes to the bridge himself to handle the manual navigation. The fuel charge is detonated, and the thick layer of ice breaks to create a narrow crack. The ship is steered towards that crack with full engine power. The terrifying sounds of metal cracking and ice breaking echo all around. The medical team tries to keep the injured engineer safe by tying him to a stretcher. Scientists constantly monitor the glacier's movement and report that the pressure coming from behind is now becoming even faster. The ship barely makes it out of that narrow passage, but then a large part of the glacier breaks off and hits from behind, causing the rear part of the ship to be badly damaged, and water starts filling up. Pumps are run with full force, and the crew also starts removing water with buckets. At that same time, the weather clears a bit, and a rescue ship's signal appears on the distant radar, which the scientists had already alerted using the emergency beacon. Seeing this, a wave of hope runs through the entire ship, but then news comes from the bridge that the ship's steering is failing, and if control is not taken now, they will directly collide with the broken icy fragments. Without delay, Victor himself goes down to the manual control section where, standing amidst the cold and water, he begins to handle the steering by hand. Alex and the rest of the crew join him to provide support, and finally, the ship's direction is corrected. After some time, the rescue ship reaches them, and people begin to be transferred between the two ships via ropes and a bridge system. The injured engineer and the weakest people are sent first. In the end, Victor and Alex stand together for one last time on the deck of the North Star, looking at the ship that brought them out from the jaws of death. Victor shakes hands with Alex and says that today he understood that a true leader is one who can change rules by looking at the situation. And Alex replies that if everyone hadn't been together, no decision would have worked. As soon as they both board the rescue ship, their ship behind them tilts into the ice and slowly comes to a stop, but does not sink completely. Everyone, tired but happy to be alive, hugs each other, and amidst the cold white sea, with the rising sun, there is a realization that if humans stand together, they can fight even the most ruthless nature. And with this hope, their terrifying but lesson-filled journey finally comes to an end.